Hi everybody, Rich Wilson here, Raw Studios, or the online side of the business, which is Raw Studios TV. Today we're going to talk about tips, another one of the tips videos, and this one is a tips for drum teachers. Now I've had quite a lot of questions about this, so I'm going to work through, and then this is going to be posted on my site, so you can look at that and you can go through, and hopefully these are going to become really helpful to you. Okay, so it's anything based around drum teachers, so from getting what to do in a lesson, to a problem student, to advertising, to actually running the business. Okay, those are the things that we're going to be talking about today. So we've got quite a few questions to get through, so we'll get started and get on with it. Okay, so the first question really is from one of the forums. Now the questions have been coming on forums, on Facebook and on Twitter. Okay, the best place to get the questions in is on Twitter, which is @RichWilsonDrums. And they're the ones that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be hopefully doing one of these a week, posting them up on the site, and they're going to be helpful to you, so you can start to grow your businesses. And I'm just giving back really what I've been given over the years. Okay, so the first question is from Drum Bum, and this is regarding structuring a lesson. Okay. So yeah, structuring a lesson, it's a difficult thing to do if you've not got the experience, if you've not been doing it long, if you've only got a few students, but there's quite a key to it. And the way that I've done things is that I always start with a warm-up. We have a warm-up, whether that be just a few singles, just give the student a few minutes just to get their hands warm, so some singles and some doubles, those kind of things, on the pad or just on the snare. Yeah, just while I'm finding the notes from the previous lesson and just recapping what they did in the last lesson. They're just sort of bashing away and having a little warm up and getting their hands ready. And then what we tend to do is we'll run a couple of tracks. Okay, so that can be anything. That could be from the sort of Groove Essentials things or any other backing tracks that you've got. And just to get them loose, get them in the field, get the timing there, and get them used to the kit that's in the studio, because obviously a lot of the time it's different to the kit that they've got at home, so they're just getting used to the feel and the placement of the kit again. So a couple of tracks just to get them ready, yeah? And then we have a little chat about certain things that have worked in the warm-up and certain things that haven't worked in the warm-up. It may be that something that's come up in that is the basis for the lesson. Say, maybe they've tried to put a fill in there using a paradiddle diddle, and it's not worked. So we may look at some exercises then for the rest of the lesson to get that working. Okay, but generally, if that's not the case, what we'll do is that we'll then start to recap over what we did in the last lesson, whether that be a week ago or some of my guys are sort of at the pro level, so maybe a couple of months ago. We'll look at those kind of things. So we'll go back and we'll look over what we did last time. I've got very detailed notes from all of my students for every lesson that they've had, which is something that I would say that you really do, so you don't have to rely on them telling you what they've done and telling you that, well, I've never done that. Then you can do a quick, Command F or Control F, depending on what platform you're using, and type the word in, do a quick search and look and tell them when they did it and how many lessons you spent doing it. Really good idea just to keep really detailed notes. Yeah, it's like going to the doctor's surgery. They've got all your medical records in there. Exactly the same. You need to know what your students have been doing and where they're at and when they did this exercise and what speed they got. So last time they did it, maybe 6 months ago, they were playing paradiddles in 16th notes at 100 beats a minute. Yeah, so now you can reference that and you can tell them, you can see the progression. Okay, so after the little warm-up, after the couple of tracks, it's into what we've been working on, whether that's a reading exercise or whether that's a hand exercise, some pad work, some technique stuff, some molar stuff, and we'll spend a little bit of time working on that. And again, it depends on the length of the lesson. If it's a 30-minute lesson or a 45-minute lesson or an hour, or some of my guys are having longer lessons now, an hour and a half, couple of hours. You've got more time to fit those things in if you've got the longer lesson. Okay. So they're the things that we will work on, and then we'll work on that. Any exercise that comes, so say they've been working on a lick, and the hands are not quite working, we'll take out of that then and we'll do some pad work and increase the hands. We'll get the hands working a little bit better, we'll push the tempo, we'll get a little bit of speed in there, then we'll go back to the exercise again and see if it's worked, and then what we'll do is we'll put that into a track to finish with, so they're actually incorporating it in the playing. One of the most important things is that if they're learning, for example, a rudiment, you've looked at the rudiment, you've worked out that it's the motion in the hand that's not working properly. You've pulled that out, you've put that on the pad, you've fixed the problem, you've put it back on the kit, they've nailed it, it's 100%. The important thing is then that you get it into the playing. So run a track and say, you know, if it's a paradiddle, use that paradiddle as a fill, use that paradiddle as a groove. It's important that they're incorporating it into the playing, because, you know, the rudiments and their actual playing, you know, the lessons and the playing, they need to be the same thing, they need to be here on top of each other. Yeah. Okay, so once the exercise is completed, then make sure it's in the playing. Okay, make sure that they're actually getting that in, and everything that you're teaching them is sitting nicely in there. Now, if you structure your lessons in that way, then that way the student's getting more out of it. They're always finishing on playing something to a track. They're walking out with a big smile on their face. They're eager to practice, and they're ready to come back again. Okay, so that's the first one. Hopefully that's answered your question, Drupal. The next one I'm going to cover is kind of the same thing. This is a question from Molly. And the question is how to pace a lesson and give value for money. Okay. Now, a lesson is going to be paced by the ability of the student. Okay. So if you've got somebody who's a relative beginner, they're probably going to get through, you know, through a little bit more in a lesson than somebody who's more advanced. Okay. Let me explain that to you. That might sound the wrong way around. Okay, but let me explain that to you. You've got to throw quite a bit at beginners, okay? Otherwise they'll get bored. So it might be that, yeah, you work a little bit on the groove, you work a little bit on the fills, you put the two together, and again, making sure that you are giving them something to play along to, so whether that's just a basic track or with a click or something, yeah? Put the grooves and the fills together, that's great, brilliant, okay, yeah? Then different variations, different combinations of the fill. So if you're working on a 16th note fill, how to move that around the kit. Yeah, there may be an awful lot of things that come out of these sort of beginner to intermediate lessons. So don't be scared to put too much on them, but gauge it from the student if you think that you're overloading them. Okay? Yeah. Now what I would say to you is try not to go off on too many tangents. So don't go, let's do some grooves, let's do some fills, let's do some paradiddles, let's do some paradiddles, let's do this, let's do that, let's do that. That's going to be way overloaded. As long as you're giving them quite a lot of stuff based around the same ideas, so if you're doing some 8th note groove, yeah, let's spend some time doing an 8th note groove, but let's start changing the bass drum patterns around. So we're putting different bass drums under it, which is giving them more feel, different genres, and also looking at some coordination. That is absolutely fine. And then different variations of a particular fill over the top of it. Now that might seem like you're doing maybe 10 things in a lesson, but they're all related to 8th note groove, 16th note fill. Okay? When the students are a little bit more advanced, it's a good idea to go into more detail in terms of, you know, if you're breaking down, let's say, a quite complex fill that somebody's working on, or a quite complex reading exercise that somebody's working on, it's a good idea to go into a lot of detail and look at the motion of how they're doing it, yeah, to make it more efficient. Okay, so in terms of the advanced people, you may get through a lot less in a lesson than you do with the intermediates and the beginners. All right, so that's what I would say is, you know, you can throw a lot of the beginners and the intermediates, but they're based around the same thing. They're just slight tweaks on the same thing. The more advanced people and the pro people will probably have something set in mind that they want to cover anyway. Okay, so you can cover that one particular thing, and they won't mind going into that detail and, you know, studying one thing for the entire lesson, because that's, you know, that was their idea in the first place. Okay, so hopefully that's answered that as well, Mark. All right, let's look at just while we're talking about the teaching side of things and that, let's look at a question from Dan's drum lessons. Okay, now this is teaching with no budget, without a car and without a kit. Okay, now it's 100% possible, absolutely 100% possible, because it's not going to be possible to do privately, because you're going to need to either travel to people's houses, or they're going to have to come to you. Now, if you've got no car, you can't travel. If you've got no kit, they can't come to you. Okay, so the easiest way to do that is to try and get into a local music shop. keep pushing yourself, get into a local music shop and see if you can just do, a couple of hours for free. Get a couple of students, build that up, and then the guy who owns the shop or girl who owns the shop is going to say, do you know what, this is working, yeah? And start to build it and work alongside a local music store. Or get into a local school if you can. Yeah, we do quite a bit of work in schools here. I mean, we don't only teach drums, we teach drums and guitar and bass and singing and keyboards and pianos and things. Yeah, but we've over the years we've done quite a bit in schools, and that's just been from people coming to us saying, can we do this? We don't want the music service in. Can we do that? And this is how it's built up. But getting into schools is a possibility. Just sort of hitting them all up and just telling them about yourself and what you can do. That's a great way in. The other one is to try and get in with a shop. Or even try and find another local music school who need a teacher. Yeah, I've got by myself here. I've got another 5 drum teachers. I've got a couple of 3 guitar teachers, a couple of piano teachers, and 2 singing teachers. Yeah, so it may be that there's a local teacher who's got lots and lots of students who might fancy a day off. So why don't you go and see if you can cover for him? Yeah, so if he doesn't work on a Sunday, could you use his studio on a Sunday? Rent the studio off him and teach him there on a Sunday. Okay, so there's all sorts of options there, Dan, for that. All sorts of options. Okay, so hopefully that's answered that one for you, Dan. Okay, so we're kind of getting now onto the business side of it, and there's a question from Funky Drummer 1234. Okay, that's a pretty cool name, Funky Drummer. Yeah, and that is about advertising. Okay, that a website is not always enough, and it's absolutely right. A website is not enough. Because if you've got the website is not necessarily going to be found. So, yeah, you need to do a little bit more. And the first place I would send you, which is, it might seem like I'm giving you a lot of tips here that I'm doing, yeah. But these are all things that I've done and that definitely work. And I've got no problem in sharing these with you and hoping that you guys build up. I've got students from all over the UK. The online side of things now is going global. But there is, I'm there to help anybody who needs that help, okay? So the first place to try, which is great, and which will get you probably to the top of Google pretty quickly, is if you go to Google and put in Google Places. It used to be Google Business Center, now Google Places, okay? I've actually got this up here. So Google Places, or it's www.google.com/places, okay? And that'll give you a screen there with two things: rate and share a place on Google, or get your business found on Google on the right hand side. Click on the get started on the right hand side, go through, put your details in there, and that actually comes up right at the top of Google with a map. It takes some time to get there, but you can put in there your business name, what you do, and Google Places is a fantastic way to get some new business in. Okay. The other thing is to form partnerships with local music shops, or form partnerships with, if you're a drum teacher, form a partnership with a guitar teacher, or a keyboard teacher, or piano teacher, and work together, get to know all the guys in your area that you're working with, yeah, and try and interact with each other. So if you hear of a guitar student, pass it to him. You might hear of a drum student, so he'll pass it to you. And just try and network as much as you possibly can locally. So get known in all the local music stores. So if somebody goes into the music store that doesn't do lessons, great, yeah, then they're going to recommend you. This is what we've done. And we now do all of the teaching at one of our local music stores. We do a lot of teaching at another local music store. And this is how it works. It kind of spirals out of control. You'd be surprised how quickly that can happen. Yeah, you'd be really surprised about that. So the first place really is to try, is on the tips there. Funky Drummer is Google Places. It's a great way to get found and get to the top of Google. And that way then, and it's free, you don't have to pay for it. And then when you get all these phone calls that telling you that they can get you to the top of Google and you can get this and they can give you the world, you can say to them, you know what, I'm already there, I don't need that. Okay, so that's the first place that I would try is Google Places. All right. So we've got a few things, a few other questions, but I'm going to try and put all these together into one now, which is and sort of put my thoughts onto this. Which is to really make sure that you're running your teaching practice as a business. Okay, there's so many people out there who are brilliant teachers and brilliant musicians, but have no business sense. You've got to put the business in there as well. Okay, so make sure that you're absolutely running it as a business. Yeah, you're not doing things for free unless it's going to lead to something else. There's nothing wrong with doing the odd workshop or clinic for free. Yeah, if it's going to lead to more exposure or anything like that. Okay, so and get a contract with your students. Okay, it might sound a little bit strange that. Get a contract with them. It's nothing, it's not a solicitor. You don't have to go sit down with a solicitor. You just need to get a contract with them that says that if they don't turn up, then they're going to pay for their lesson. Yeah? You need 24 hours, 48 hours notice. Yeah, bar, within reason. If something's really, really nastily happened, then, you can't do anything about it. You've got to add exceptions to it, but the standard rules are if you need 24 or 48 hours notice, if you don't turn up, then the next lesson is you pay double. Okay? That way then you're going to be sat there. If they don't turn up, you're sat there for an hour, you're still going to get paid for it. Okay? Make sure they understand that from day one. That's the first thing that my students do when they walk through the door, any of the students here, in the 2 studios that we've got. They sign a contract. If they're under 18, the parents sign the contract. And we're all aware of it to start. We don't have any problems with people not paying. They just, most of the time, they just turn up and they'll pay without even being asked. Because they understand that they need to give 48 hours notice. Yeah, if they've come home from school or work that day and they've been violently ill, just taken ill quickly, then there's nothing we can do about it. It's a bit of give and take, but they're aware of it, and 9 times out of 10, they will pay for it. Which may sound a little bit harsh in terms, but you are running a business. This is how you make your living. Yeah, and let's add in there that if they, you could take the money at the beginning of the lesson. That way then that saves the problem of getting to the end of the lesson and the student going, I don't have any money. Okay? Your student wouldn't go to the local supermarket, do a full week shopping, and then say, do you know what, can I pay next week? Yeah. They wouldn't be allowed to do that. Okay, so it's exactly the same, guys. It may sound a little bit harsh, but it's something that you've got to do. You've got to look after yourself and make sure that you know, beginning of a week, when you look at your diary on a Monday morning, what you're going to have earned by Friday. Okay? There's going to be a few changes to that, but you could be 95% sure of the money that you're going to take if you've got that contract in place. Okay, so that's the contract terms and conditions, and then the other thing on the side of that is all the student contact information. Next to kin and any medical problems, so that if you've got a young student, the parents drop them off and they go away, do some shopping for an hour and come back, how to get hold of them immediately. If the kid's asthmatic or they've got an allergy to something, exactly what's going on. It's really important that you get on top of this stuff. Yeah? And the other things really to look at are, don't be scared of something that I do massively here is using technology. Okay, so use the technology that we have nowadays. When I started playing, which is a long time ago, there was none of what we have now. Absolutely none of it. Okay, so regularly we record. Yeah, we record into Ableton sound, so we can listen back to it. We use HD video cameras so that the students can watch themselves back. Okay, they bring a memory stick. They can take those video clips away with them. If there's a problem with something that they can't quite get, I might sit on the kit, grab the Zoom Q3, quickly record it for them, stick it on the memory stick or email the little video clip to them so they know what it should sound like. Yeah? So we're doing this all of the time. Yeah? We take photos. Yeah? We take really high resolution photos of technique, so we can see that when that little finger's come off. Yeah? We video that and we'll pause it so they can see when the little fingers come off, or whether they've got themselves the posture's got really bad, or those things. The best way for somebody to learn is to see themselves doing it. Okay? So don't be scared to use technology. Yeah? All the time, we all use it. We have backing tracks, we have clicks, we have video, we have photographs, we have all this stuff that's at our disposal now. So use all of it. Yeah? It puts you ahead of the game. Yeah? There's not a day goes by that the video camera's not out, or the Zoom's not out recording something, or we're recording, the kit's all mic'd into the desk, which you can see here. Runs through FireWire into the Mac, Ableton. We can quickly just record a few bars, record the click so they can hear that they've got faster with a click. Or if we record it with the Zoom Q3, they can see it as well as hear it, that they've got faster, and you can probably see why, because they've changed the motion. Yeah, they've made the motion smaller, which means the distance that the sticks travelling is less, which means it's got faster. Okay, so there's all these things. So don't be afraid to use technology. Technology is your friend. Yeah, there's a million things. YouTube, there's all sorts of clips on YouTube. Find the clips. Yeah, find the clips on YouTube. Yeah, if they've come in and ask a question and you know a particular drummer who plays that style of drumming, quickly show them a clip of it on YouTube and say, okay, this is the kind of stuff that we can work on. Yeah, and then start to get into that. If a student comes in and says, I really like this particular band, yeah, then you can start working on something towards, work some exercise out to work on getting one of those tracks done. And all you need to do is type in the name of the song or the band into YouTube. You've got the track there. You don't need an endless library. You've got it there. As long as you've got a nice internet connection in your studio, you can do all of this stuff. You can email tracks, you can cut CDs for people, you can use memory sticks to send them away with stuff, you can record video clips for them. All of those things are massively, massively useful, and that's what sets us apart from a lot of the other people in our area, that we're growing constantly, and a lot of the other people are actually going the other way and shrinking and closing down. We're growing, we're getting new staff all the time, and it's because of the way that we approach it. It's absolutely because of the way that we approach it. We run it as a business, but we run it with the technology, and we make it really, really enjoyable with the backing tracks and the videos and all those kind of things. Okay. And I think the final thing I really want to talk about is don't be scared to get a mentor. A few years ago, I got a mentor, and really without him, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. and that's not really over-exaggerated. My mentor is a gentleman by the name of Dom Famularo. Many of you will have heard of Dom. Dom's, without over-exaggerating too much, probably the best drum teacher on the planet as we speak now. And Dom really, really massively helped me in terms of putting the business together, structuring things. And I studied with Dom, and a lot of the techniques and things that I'm teaching are from what Dom taught me, which I'm teaching to my students. But he's always there. We Skype regularly, yeah, and we talk about things. We might just talk about life in general and our families and things and how the kids are getting on and that. But if I need anything at all, if I say, I'm thinking about doing this, Dom, he will give me his experience. He's got more experience than I have. Yeah, find somebody who's done it, been there and done it. Don't try and reinvent the wheel and go down a path and spend a year going down a path that somebody else has been down and it's a dead end. You may as well ask them up front first of all. Do you think this is going to work? And they may say yes, they may say no. If they've done it, they're going to say no. Or they may say to you, it's a good idea, but why don't you do it a slightly different way, which will work better. Okay? You're going to save yourself a lot of time by finding yourself that mentor and that person that you can turn to and you can build a relationship with. Okay? So that's the other thing that you really, really need to think about. Alright? So I'm just about ready to wrap this up now, guys. So I think that's covered it all. Thanks, guys, for all your questions. Molly, Dan's, drum lessons, Funky Drummer, Drum Bum, and all the other ones. Yeah. Any questions that you want answering, again, straight into Twitter at Rich Wilson Drums, and the next tips video will be on those. It can be anything from playing wise to approaching a different style or anything like that. Okay, they're going to be thrown out there hopefully once a week, depending on my schedule and when I can fit these recordings in. Okay, but hopefully that's been of use, guys. And just let me know your feedback. All right, thanks for now. Cheers. Take care.